the legend that they couldn't die did, as you said, create a psychological buffer and created a unique experience to where they were doing things that were so memorable that there's a movie all these years later. Mm-hmm. They took atypical risks because of the legend, but still there was no truth to the legend.
Inspired by true events, three brothers deal with pressure from the law to shut down their bootlegging operations. I'm psychologist Dr. Bryan Violet, and on this week's Sinner in a Movie, I sit down with the Utah Boys to discuss the film Lawless. This is the Catholic Sinner Show.
So, all right, let's talk about Lawless. I can't help but see the relationship between you guys being three brothers and this movie being about three brothers.
Whoa, what are you talking about, dude? That's crazy.
I thought it was good.
What are you talking about?
Yes, I mean it was a cool movie about three brothers who are obviously super tight. The bond around boys. It sort of feels like it's them against the world. Do you guys feel like that?
100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you feel like it's you guys together against the world?
100%.
Yeah, bro.
Yes. Yeah.
Say more.
Is it as nitty gritty? No, but I still feel that. Yeah, it's like there's nothing like Brotherhood, man. There's nothing like Brotherhood.
And it's like I feel like and I think the reason why I like it a lot, is because it's like there's two brothers that I get along with the most in the family, out of 5 boys total. Well, including myself, 5 boys total. But it's Andrew and Logan. Those are the two brothers that that I connect to the most, whether that's an age gap or not, having whatever. But yeah, the movie's good, and it's just kind of puts you in that world of just like 3 brothers doing it all.
Yeah.
It's cool that it's based on a true story too. Like I love that stuff. Yeah. I love history. I love based on true stories. I love going back and kind of seeing what was going on. It's super interesting.
Yeah. Well, you say, Logan?
I would say us growing up, it was us 3 packed together. Like when we slept on beds, couches, when we were put in, in outfits, whatever it was us 3.
I need pictures. I need pictures of outfits.
I just for real, like there was at the end, there's 3 girls, but then there was us 3 boys. And then there was the older 3, because there's 9 of us. And so I think we just being that kind of like middle 3 boys. Yeah. And even me, like I got paired with the girls a little bit sometimes. Andrew got paired with the older siblings a little times. But for the majority of the time, it was definitely just us 3 against the world. Mm-hmm. They would be doing troublesome and, shooting me, while I was running or whatever. But it was still us 3. And yeah.
Just doing brother stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, whenever it was go out and do chores, it was, Andrew, Dalton, Logan go out and weed the yard. And just always kind of been a team.
Nice.
What'd you think of it, though, Budge?
The Brotherhood part of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was great. In some ways, I'm jealous of it, to be honest with you. In some ways,
no brother?
I have 2 brothers, but we're 8. In either direction, they're 8 years apart from me.
Wow.
Oh.
So my older brother is 8 years older than me, and younger brother is 8 years younger than me, and we get along great.
Yeah,
we have a great relationship. I love them very much. There's no tension. It's cool, but it's not. We didn't go through the exact same thing together, like at the exact same time. We didn't like come up together. It was like different worlds. I mean, it's like almost like different generations. Like 8 years. Yeah. It's like we're like a decade apart. We grew up in different worlds. So. So I wish I had a brother that was closer to me in age that I felt like I had that level of depth and closeness to. So I'm grateful that you guys have it, and I admire it. I think it's really cool.
Do we come off that way too, in your opinion? You know what I mean?
That you're close?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you guys are definitely close. It's one of those things where we've been so close over the years that I've even seen you guys, like your whole family, kind of fight with one another. Mm-hmm. But I also know that there's something that like I could never touch. You know what I mean? There's a level of depth that like I know whatever you're going through, like it's not going to last forever. Like I'm not like going to even speak into any kind of argument that you guys are having with
Yeah.
one another. Like it's so sacred. Like I like it would be foolish of me to even like dip my finger in that in that tension, because there's so much depth. And I don't mean just because you guys are arguing, but I mean just because of I know that there's a level of closeness that like nobody outside of your unit will be able to access.
For sure.
So I always just see it like, I mean, it's just blood. I just know how it is, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's cool to see. And you see that with them. There's 3 brothers.
Yep.
Forrest the oldest, Howard the middle,
Mm-hmm.
Jack the youngest.
Yep.
Do you guys think that you relate to any particular brother? Do you think it lines up that way, or is it too different?
I don't think it lines up. Like I was trying to notice that with how it went or whatever the case, but I didn't see it line up with I'm not saying with like even the age of the brothers, whether it was Andrew, me, then Logan or whatever the case. I couldn't pin what brother was what. You know what I mean? I think it was just like the dynamic of the 3. That was just like how close they were, but how different they were.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. What about you, Andrew? Did you see it?
I mean, I saw some similarities, but I think there's a good mixture of kind of all of the brothers spread throughout, if that makes sense. Like Jack being the youngest and experiencing some of the stuff. Like we all are Jack in a way, but also in certain times we're the older brother too. You know what I mean? It's not cut and dry, is what I'm saying.
I see. It was always kind of a blend back and forth of roles growing up.
Yeah, because I mean, we're technically, us 3 are the middle of the family. We're like, there's 3 older siblings, and then there's 3 younger siblings than us 3.
Right.
So.
Right. But you're Logan. You're the youngest male, though.
Yes, that's correct.
So that's a unique position.
You just get beat up on.
First one, but... yeah, it's okay.
So that's a nice way of saying unique position. Go on. So I imagine you were bullied.
Yeah, I think I had 4 older brothers that all were bigger than me up until a point, but that all came down on me. I learned a lot from them now, and I think as an adult, right, it's always the case, right? As a child, it feels like the worst thing in the world, right? All your brothers are always beating up on you. You can never beat up on them. Always comes down on you. But as an adult, it's nice, right? You've got older siblings that you love. So
you don't think it's as clear cut as one of you guys having a little bit more of a tender heart like Jack?
I didn't even think Jack had Did Jack have a tender heart? Because I thought Forrest had a tender heart because like he couldn't show his emotions.
Forrest is more calm, collected, just kind of keeping it to the point. Jack is more in his emotions. He's more motion oriented than Forrest.
Yeah, correct. But no, keep going. Sorry, I apologize.
And then you have Howard, who's kind of a mixture of both, but he's a little bit more crazy side. He can be like Jack, or he can be like Forrest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought Forrest he had an emotional side to him. He just couldn't show it. He had to be he had to stay that fucking douchebag. Quote, or sorry for the language.
I started it.
But you can see with his girlfriend, that he ended up sooner or later marrying.
Right.
And then
he has emotions, but he has to be the assertive kind of face of the brothers.
He couldn't show him because it showed at the very end where like he's by that pond and because he's like, I'm not dancing in front of you guys, and he goes by the pond, he starts dancing a little bit, trying to loosen up whatever, and then whatever. But I saw.
Well, with Maggie too, he like every time she'd come towards him, he'd be like, didn't
know what to do.
He didn't know what to say. He couldn't. The words didn't even come out.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but I will say though that I think Jack did have a tender heart. Remember, he couldn't shoot the pig. Remember the opening scene? I forgot about that. But that was to illustrate like how he was different than the 2 brothers. Remember, he's like shoot the pig, and he wouldn't do it.
Okay. I didn't compare.
So then the other brother came over and just shot it.
Right. And later on, after Jack gets beat up, he sort of allows himself to get beat up, And then Forrest comes over to him and he's like, "What are you going to do about this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you expecting us to help you? What are you going to do?"
Well,
And
even
then
when he was getting beat up, he's like, "My brother's gonna get you."
my brother's going to get you, right? And then Jack also said, "What if I'm not built like you?
Yep.
Like, I don't think I'm built like you and Howard." So I think it was at least the narrative. I mean, you find out over time that he's quite built like them, right? As the movie progresses,
Correct.
his rage comes out. But I think for a long time there was that tenderness about him, which differentiated him from the other two. Although he had vision, though.
Mm-hmm.
He had
thought
vision.
much differently than his other brothers.
He did. He was thinking big picture. Yeah. What'd you think about the legend that they can't die?
It was pretty cool.
I think that's what really helped them be as ruthless as they were, and just
Or resilient. Another word.
Yeah,
but yeah.
and it also puts it in other people's heads too, and so it kind of creates this legend and puts fear into other people's hearts, which is what they wanted, especially in those times.
Yeah.
Just having shootouts in the middle of town, like you want people to fear you.
Yes. And I think you're right. I think it made them bold and courageous, and they took more risks than they would have. Yeah. Like their psychology, the belief created it, like influenced their choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they took risks as a result of it.
And it paid off for them.
If it was true, clearly, because based on the true story, for however true, the part where like Forrest thought that he walked to the hospital with this throat cut, hilarious,
Yes.
funny, dude. That is, oh man, that was amazing.
And then Maggie's like, "No, I did that." He's like, "What?"
Leave it up to you to believe your own legend.
Yeah, no, dude. Oh man,
she cut him so deep, and that was great.
He was rethinking everything. Like you saw in his head, he was just like, "Okay, whoop." It was funny.
Yeah, kind of cut him down a little bit.
Yeah,
kind of cut his ego.
Yeah, but also, what was so interesting about it was that point at the end, right at the end, the line from Jack where he's talking about what's happening after all the crisis, and then they go out and they live sort of a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack is saying, I think Forrest believed that he was invulnerable, but no one leaves this world alive. What a statement! Nobody leaves this world alive, and in the end, it was something simple and some dumb luck that killed him. He slipped into the ice and got pneumonia and died.
Mm-hmm.
After all those crazy things he lived through,
Getting shot 8 times.
It's something random like pneumonia because he was dancing drunk on like a patch of ice.
Yeah,
just showing how random and confusing and difficult death can be.
Mm-hmm.
And even just how difficult those times were too. Like, it's freaking insane. So the Prohibition was going around the same time as the Depression, right? So being able to sell alcohol was huge, even though it was outlawed, and being able to pay off the officers and have their little gig that they had going. It was Wild Wild West, man.
Yeah, for sure. What'd you think of the females of the film? What'd you think of Maggie and Bertha? Yeah.
I think they were played very well. Specifically Maggie. I think she played that part really well, that actress.
Yes.
And she played such an important part in kind of Forrest's character progression, and just kind of how things just escalated. And Bertha, not as much. She didn't play as a big of a role in the movie as Maggie did.
I really liked her flirting with Jack, though. They had a nice little chemistry between the two of them. Like, she had a nice little twinkle in her eye, and like so did he. I thought their banter back and forth was really adorable, actually. Yeah.
Dude, the whole feet thing, I'm with him, man. If I got to pull my feet out in church and get a foot rub, that's kind of weird.
Dude, he had to go throw up.
I know.
Oh, okay.
But he'd also chuck. I don't know if it was because he chucked some alcohol before that too, and then went to the church or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because he was nauseated, but also having your crush take your shoe off in the middle of everybody and start rubbing your feet up. That's a little weird. Yeah, I'm with him. Yeah. I'm out of there, dude. I'm getting out.
It was a nauseating scene. It was probably like a combination of all those factors. and him just probably really anxious taking that risk. I mean, he sat down in that chair. I couldn't believe the nerve. He sat down in the chair in the church. By the way, I thought that song that they were doing was really cool, and they were doing the beat, and it was some kind of hymn. I hadn't heard that before. I thought that was cool. But then he sits down, and they're all still praying and doing this stuff, and he just like takes something off the floor and just throws something right at her to get her attention. And you could just tell, like from the beginning, she liked it, and he knew it. And she wasn't going to stick in that like traditional lane, those traditional values.
Right. Okay, I got to know. The special agent guy, Charlie Rakes.
Yes.
He is like the epitome of someone that I just want to like. He bugs me so bad.
I think it was a haircut.
Just his whole mannerisms and just like he's the shit. You know what I mean? And like oof. That
Great
was
acting.
the perfect person to play that role.
Great acting.
Because it makes you want to come to the screen and punch him.
He was an amazing villain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a strange like combination of factors where he was tough as nails though. I mean, he was ruthless.
Yeah.
But you know, they call him a Nance. Jack called him a Nance, and he was like this. It was like a feminine quality to him. Not really, but by the standards of that culture, that hillbilly culture, he had perfume. You know, he spent all this time in his hair, like, you know, slicking it back. He had a hard time. He seemed like he had a little bit of OCD. He wasn't okay with like his clothes getting dirty.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he was a dark villain. He was acted very well. He was scary. I thought he was scary. Like, I mean, when he entered the scene, you didn't know what he was going to do. Felt like he was very unpredictable.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't understand. I mean, it was just strange. But that one scene where the black woman is naked and she's like he had some kind of sexual encounter with her.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, but she's like I don't know if you noticed, she was sitting on a newspaper.
Yep.
On the bed, and she's like kind of like shaking and like breathing heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it implies like some kind of strange sexual encounter, like strange sexual deviance. That that she was almost unwilling to do it, or like he assaulted her. Like it just added to his whole creep factor, I thought.
Yep. For sure.
And I'm on the assault side. He definitely nothing there was probably consensual.
No.
He's just a creep. He's a weirdo.
Yeah, he was.
But he played that part so good, and that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah. So what'd you think about Jack? I mean, there's a lot to be said about that character. In some ways, like I think in the beginning of the film, I thought this was a movie about Forrest and Tom Hardy, but as time went on, I was like, actually, no, this is a movie about Jack.
I think he plays. I think a lot of families have this where, especially in the older kids, they kind of follow their parents' influence a lot more, and they kind of do what has been done. And then as it comes down the line more, you start to see more rebellious behavior, and they start to become different versions of their family and more adventurous almost like. And that's kind of what Jack was to me. Is he wanted to run with the family business. He wanted to do what his brothers did, but he was just different. You know what I mean? And he needed to show that side of him and prove himself to his older brothers that like, hey, I know that you guys are gangsters or, you know, tougher than me, but like I have something else that you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Studies show that in terms of birth order, the further down the line you get, the more creative you get.
Yeah.
Because you have to compete for resources. Whereas when you're older, there's less, I mean, there's more resources to be divided among less people. I mean, it could be like like attention, like emotion, like, you know, dinner rolls, whatever it is. You have to be creative to try and get your needs met. So that like facilitates a kind of creative spirit and a creative way of approaching life. And so, yeah, for Jack, definitely he had vision. He saw something bigger than what was going on and what their regular practice was. And he thought, well, I'm going to make these bootlegger runs across county line and get us
to
some
prove
real
myself.
money. Yeah. He said, I can do it. I'm a driver. I can do it. The reason the only thing that's limiting me is the car that we have. And then he had the saddest character, Cricket. Yeah, who was a genius.
Yeah,
Big
He was
time.
he was a
mad
genius.
scientist.
Yeah, and he had a crippled leg, and he had rickets as a child, and it affected the way he walked. And there was a purity about him. And then obviously he was murdered.
Oh,
And that's when, I mean, which breaks your heart, but that's when Jack snapped.
Yep.
yep.
That's where you saw the twist. Boom.
Yep. And he saw that because there was a purity. I think he probably, because he was not always accepted himself by his older brothers, because he was kind of pushed along. I think it gave him more of a tender heart for someone like Cricket, where, I mean, Cricket was
His
kind of
brothers wouldn't have done the same.
he was kind of marginalized, and he wasn't treated with the respect that he deserved, and Jack saw that as like someone to take care of,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
and they had an awesome friendship.
Mm-hmm.
It was sad to see him go.
It's crazy you guys said that though. Like as soon as he died, you just see this switch, boom, and it's just like it's on. No more games, and just headed straight towards pretty much his death, and he just didn't care.
Yeah, like 1 on 10, like
Yeah.
by himself.
Yep.
But
There's
he just
so much
wanted
rage.
a one-on-one, which ultimately he got.
Yeah, ultimately he did get, and he did get some support from the other bootleggers. Of course, his brothers came, but it became like a bigger battle than just 1 on 10. But he didn't know that at the time. He was just seeing red.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So there's 2 back-to-back lines, which I think you could take them in isolation. But they're both profound, and I think it's like kind of the core of the movie and the core of their spirit and their philosophy of the brothers. The first is, it's not the violence that sets a man apart. It is the distance that he is prepared to go. That's after Jack was saying, "What if I'm not like you? What if I can't handle myself?" After he got beat up.
Yep.
And his brother says to him, "It's not about the violence. It's a distance you're prepared to go." What do you think about that line?
I think it's vision. Like what sets someone apart from accomplishing things is vision and being able to set goals and accomplish things. Like in that particular case, I think, especially back then, you had to be pretty hard. Like you couldn't be a very soft person. So Forrest being the way he is, he doesn't seem like that kind of, like he seems like hard headed and like kind of like a dick, but you can tell throughout the movie that he has a big heart.
Yeah.
But he's willing to go far for his family to protect them, because that's what means ultimately the most is his family. So for him, that's how far he's willing to go, is to protect his family.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that line, Dalton?
I think Forrest, I think the 2 older brothers had to be the physical ones, like they had a vision clearly, but they were limited, in my opinion, to where it's like they had to be this physical. Hey, we had to stay here because this is what we can control. Yeah. And I think he said that to Jack because he wanted a bigger, vision or whatever the case, but he wanted Jack to be someone different than himself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think the 2 older brothers had to be the violence, but then Forrest was like, "Hey, don't be like us. Be someone else.
But be a man."
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely an encouragement and an affirmation to be a man. But you being a man, Jack, is not dependent upon your physicality.
Yep.
It's your character in dealing with, long suffering and dealing with, persevering in a difficult moment. And to your point, he even says that. In one word, when Jack says, I'm not built like you. And he says, "That's all right."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He just says, "That's all right."
Yep.
You don't have to be us, but you do need to be the best version of you.
Yep.
Any thoughts on this, Logan?
No, I think that's a lot of. I'm not going to try to go too deep on it, but like I think that's a lot of like modern thought, right? Which is like this, like going from, just like how big can you be, how physical can you be, how much of a violent man can you be, right? Into trying to, get to like what truly is like a man, and like what is really gonna actually like take you the distance, right? Versus like, just being as big and as shelled as you can be or whatever. So yeah.
Said the power lifter.
I enjoy it.
All right, and then the other line was, "We are," this line kind of gives me pause, and I'm not sure I quite understand it. "We are survivors. We control the fear. And without the fear, we are all as good as dead." I get the first
especially
half.
for that bloodline.
I mean, I get the first half. We are survivors. We control the fear. I get it. He's basically saying control your fear. But then he says, without the fear, we are all as good as dead. So he's acknowledging that the fear. He's saying that it's good that the fear is there. That's what keeps us alive is mastering our fear. But I'm acknowledging that the fear should be there. We control the fear, and without the fear, we are all as good as dead.
I took it as situational for them, because with them being immortal or whatever it is, people didn't want to mess with them. So if people didn't fear them, they would mess with them. So I think them controlling the fear in their area kept them alive from getting shot at or whatever it is.
Got you. So it wasn't
That's
their
how
fear.
I took that.
Yeah. So you were saying like he was talking about other people fearing them. It wasn't their interior fear. Yeah. Got you.
Because everyone in town did fear them. Everyone knew their last name. Everyone knew not to mess with them. These guys, you can't kill them. So just leave them alone. Let them do their thing. And even when the people tried to come in, was like, hey, you're going to start doing stuff by our own set of rules. And Forrest was like, get the hell out of here. We're not playing by your rules.
Yeah.
So I think them keeping the fear with everyone around them is what's keeping them alive.
Okay.
Yeah, I take that, I take that as a bigger picture, because I think you're scared of everything in a sense. Like you're always, I feel like you're always in a state of fear, to where it's like, whether you're always gonna have a job, your car's gonna keep going, bum with relationships, and if you're not always like changing or like to fix that fear, then it's like then you're not alive.
Yeah.
You're just dead. You're just doing nothing.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's the way I took it.
Yeah, I like that take.
But yeah, for sure, the best line that I freaking, when Jack said that to, or excuse me, when Forrest said that to Jack, that was, dude, when he said that, oh man, not the fear one, the be better than us, pretty much. I loved it.
Overall, what would you rate it? It's a little older of a movie. It's not like brand new, but
yeah, it was 2012. I looked it up. I like the movie a lot. I mean, in some ways, it's dramatized real life, so you can't really critique the story too much because it's what actually happened. you know, I thought Forrest was going to die at the end, but he didn't. At least the end of the story proper.
Yeah.
When they showed their life afterwards, they didn't really do a good job of aging them, because I did a little wiki research afterwards.
I
did a little wiki, and Forrest died, and he fell through the ice and got pneumonia when he was 65.
Oh,
so he lived a long life after that.
Oh, wow! And even back then too, like
yeah. You know how old Jack was when he died?
How old?
Early 90s.
Holy sh!
Yeah. So they lived a long life, and
which is surprising.
There's an article I read by the grandson of Jack, and he wouldn't ever talk about that time. But Jack asked, he asked his grandfather one time whether or not the story was true, like the shootout at the bridge, and all Jack did was just like lift up his shirt and show the bullet wound, and then he closed it and didn't say anything.
Oh,
it's like
dude.
It's that whole culture, right? It's that kind of like stiff upper lip, Southern, rugged, masculine, strong, silent type, and
right.
that doesn't need to boast, but that handles their own business. I mean, it's great. I mean, from a male perspective, a masculine perspective, I obviously think that Tom Hardy's character Forrest was I mean, he's badass. Like
Yeah.
he was just so cool. He was so in control of himself. He was extremely competent. He was great. I mean, like when he was around in a scene, you kind of felt safe. Like
Yep.
he was going to handle it.
Mhm.
Howard was just such an interesting character. He's kind of a mess.
He's kind of a grenade. He's just
Yeah,
didn't know
He's
what the
kind
hell
of-
was going to happen.
right. He's kind of he's a loose cannon. And then Jack was awesome too. I would love to see. I love to see Logan's point too about the modern idea of masculinity, which does like transcends the idea of just being a physical brute. Like you could be a man in a different way, and I thought Jack's character really did portray that he was definitely a man. He was. I mean, he wouldn't just knock people out with brass knuckles and just win everything via muscle, but
Mhm.
like I really appreciated his character. I thought Shia LaBeouf was like acted very well.
Mhm.
It was a cool place to hang out. This movie was like a cool place to be. I enjoyed being in it. I like if it was the art style or the acting, whatever it was. Like as soon as it started, I was like, oh, okay, I can settle in. This is a cool place to be. It's like how I feel about Ocean's 11. Like when that movie starts, I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to hang out with those characters. I'm happy to be with them. So I liked it. I did like the film, and
It's gotta
I
be
think
those
if there was
westerns, man.
and I think if there was a theme or like a moral, I think if there was a theme or moral to the story, it was that death is actually random. It's random, and the legend that they couldn't die did, as you said, create a psychological buffer and created a unique experience to where they were doing things that were so memorable that there's a movie all these years later. They took atypical risks because of the legend, but still there was no truth to the legend that they were invincible or they couldn't die. Like no one leaves this world alive. And I thought it was great. I thought it was very entertaining. I think they could have looked a little bit more into the morality of it. They dipped their toe in that a little bit at times when Jack said, I'm just doing what any good man would do in these tough times. But it was against the law.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was corrupt. All the officials were getting in on the action, collecting money, and then Prohibition was over, and then they just lived a straight edge life right after that.
Right.
I felt like that could have been teased out.
Played out a
You're
little
just
more.
dropped in the middle of the story where it's just happening everywhere and everyone's doing it. I wonder what, like, it would have been interesting to see the lead up of what influenced them to make the decision to be a bootlegger and to start, making the alcohol and how people were responding to that, but I mean, I'm just picking nits here. It was a great film.
Good job, Andrew,
Yeah, I like
recommending it, man. It was good.
Yeah, for sure.